Hi, it's Allison Malika here. Welcome to Google Sheets 10 Essential Tips. Just some basics. This is great for folks who are new to Google, new to spreadsheets, but also seasoned users that need some updates or just need to know like some of the ways that Google Sheets works because it isn't obvious. Okay, so 10 simple essential tips for using Google Sheets. Let's get started. My name is Allison Malika, and you can learn more about me at AllisonMalika.com, and you can email me at allison@edtrekkers.com. Okay, allison@edtrekkers.com, because we trek through education. All right, let's get on with it. In this workshop, we are going to use a template. And I'm going to put the link in the chat. So I'm going to right click here and choose copy link address, Sheets, template. So you're going to want to click on this link, or you're going to want to type in your browser bit.ly/Sheets Essentials. And the reason you want to do that is because you want to open up the template and be able to follow along with me. I've already got data set up in there so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, okay? It gives you a chance to use some pre-data to do things. Now, teachers, educators, office folks are very often using spreadsheet with text data, not necessarily numerical data. So we're gonna do some with text and some with numbers, starting by first using the template. So you want to click on Use Template, and this will get you to a point where you can follow along with me, and I'll explain how it works. All right, so now that has loaded, you can see at the bottom of the screen, we have different tabs: select all, freeze, sort, filter, blah, blah, blah. Each tip and each slide screen that I share will use that sheet. So for example, let me explain further. On the bottom of this workbook, you have a sheet called Select All. I'm going to show a slide screen that talks about this, and then I'm going to demo what to do with this sheet in this workbook. So let me just hop back over to the slides, and let me go to step 1, select all. So all I'm showing you here is how to select everything in the spreadsheet. So instead of clicking and dragging, if you've got a spreadsheet that's like 27 columns and 1,000 rows, you don't want to have to like click and drag. That can be nonsensical. So if you want to make sure you select everything in the spreadsheet, a quick tip for that is in the top left-hand corner is to just click on that, and you can select the whole spreadsheet. And you'll see like it's highlight, the row headers and the column headers are highlighted in blue. All right, select all. So while we have everything selected, I'm going to show you how to add and apply new fonts. Now, if you've worked with Google and worked with me before, you know how to do this, but let's not forget that you can do a lot of things that are nice looking in a Google Sheet. And one thing you can do is change the font. So by default, I've got Arial set. I'm going to click on the fonts and then select more fonts. And I always share this tip with fonts, right? So you can look for all fonts, or if you're looking specifically for serif or handwriting fonts or display fonts, you can do that. And you can also sort by popularity. I like to sort by trending every time I come in here because I'm just curious, like, what is trending in fonts? That is fascinating to me that you have trending fonts. And there's always something fun and cool there. Like right now, I see margarine, and I'm going to add that font to my list because I think that's very cool. So not only do I select it, but it changes everything in my spreadsheet. Okay. All right. So take a moment to do that. If you need to pause the video, go ahead, pause the video. The second thing I'm going to show you while we're still in here, still in this one sheet, is how to resize the columns to fit the data exactly. Okay. Now, why would I do that? Okay. If you're looking at my screen right now or looking at your spreadsheet, you're going to see that column A, name, some of the names are squished, so I can't read them. but then you have all this space with trade and state. If I want to view every single entry in full, but maximize my screen space, I'm going to resize the columns so that they are only as wide as the largest entry, okay? Now to do this, I need to deselect all, so I'm just going to click anywhere in the spreadsheet. That gets rid of the select all. Then I'm going to select columns A through D by just clicking and drag. I'm going to click up in column A, click and drag over until column A through D are highlighted. Sometimes when I show folks this, they end up moving columns. You don't want to move columns. So if you've moved a column, just undo and then try again. You just want to hover over A and then click and drag. All right. Then you're going to right click and choose resize columns A through D. And then instead of setting the exact width, you're going to fit the data. So you select fit to data and click OK. And now you have a perfectly fitted view of the data in that spreadsheet. Okay. So that's how you select all and resize your columns to fit exactly your largest entries in each column. This makes your real estate maximized. You're not going to have a wider sheet than you need to have on your tiny little screen if you're using a tiny little screen. All right, now we're ready to jump over to the next tab or the next sheet with a freeze, sort, and filter sheet. Now there's some new developments in Google Sheets, so if you haven't kept up with the recent updates, I'll show you some new snazzy things here that make sorting and viewing and manipulating data a lot easier and a lot more fun too, user-friendly. So on the slides here and in the handout, you'll see number 3. We're going to first convert our data to table. We can always undo it, but we're going to convert it to a table, and then I'll walk you through how to sort your data alphabetically. That's just a simple task. But then we'll look at filters and filter views. Filters there is a way to filter the data where the collaborators will see the filter as well. So if you filter the data to view only the kids who are failing under 60%, let's say in a grade column, and you share that spreadsheet with a team, when you filter it, they will see the filter. They will only see the data that you filtered, right? A filter view is what collaborators can use to view data. So if a teacher is on the team and they want to view the kids who are achieving under 60%, they can do that. But when they use a filter view, it won't affect others. So if other people want to see all the data or different parts of the data, everyone can have a filter view, and that's unique to everyone. So I wanted to put that out there up front. Okay. So I'm going to hop over to the sheet, and we're going to select anywhere in the data. And then we're going to format it and convert to table. So I click on format and I choose convert to table, and you get a snazzy little table. Okay. Now with the table options here, if you click on the little drop down to the right of the word table, you have the ability, I'm always asked, how do you change the colors? So you have the option to change the colors. You can even customize the colors if you want to do something a little more snazzy. And if you know the color that you want, you can pick that as well. Okay. So I've changed the colors. Now, if I go back to the drop down, I can adjust other things as well. Okay. So, but we're not going to do that. We're not going to delete the table, because if we delete the table, we're deleting the data. Okay. So we're not going to do that. If we want to revert to unformatted data, we can do that, and that will take away that table view. All right. So don't delete the table, can customize the colors. You can return back to unformatted table. Okay. So I'm going to return to format. I'm going to change it back to the table. And the first thing I'll show you is how to sort. Okay. Your top row is frozen. So when you sort, you won't end up with name, trade, state, or party mixed in with the data. So if you want to sort by party, you would just click on the drop down to the right of party, hover over sort, and choose whether you want to sort it alphabetically or reverse alphabetically. So I am alphabetically sorting. Okay. Now, the other thing you can do is you can select and create a filter. So let's say I want to look at trade and I want to just see who are lawyers. So I can select filter column. Now, I said previously, when you do this, it will affect your collaborators. So if other folks are using the sheet or open the sheet, it will filter it for them. Okay, so we'll do unique filter views in a moment, but right now we'll filter the column. When you filter, you have a number of ways you can filter. Here, the column that we've selected is the one for trade. And so we just want to look at a certain trade. Let's say we want to see who the lawyers are. So I'm going to just clear everything, and then I'm going to select the lawyer and click OK. And now only the lawyers are listed in the view. All right. Again, this is going to impact everyone who's viewing the data. Everyone who's viewing the data. So I'll show you the example here. This person has the data shared with them, and if they're looking at the data, it's only going to show the lawyers because I created a filter, not a filter view. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the main account holder, and we're going to look at filter views and different ways to group it. Now, this is going to get pretty exciting because not only can I create filter views that are only viewable by me, but they have some great grouping options that are built in. So I'm going to turn off the filter. One way to do that is just to click here and I don't think I have the option. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go over to, this is actually a good lesson. In the far right, the filter is selected. So I'm going to remove the filter. It's highlighted in blue. When I click on it, it removes the filter. And now all of the trades are back. All the data is there 100%. Okay. Let's group the data by state. We have state here. So that's cool. So if I hover over to filter views, and I click on filter views, I can create a group by view, and I'll choose state. And now each state that has a president from it is listed in alphabetical order. So interestingly enough, one from only two from California, one from Georgia, Illinois, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Ohio. So very interesting to see, like, a very limited amount of states that our presidents have come from. That's a head scratcher, huh? Okay, so we can go back to, we can save the view. So if I click on save view, I can call this state. I can say group by state, or I can modify the name, state views. Okay, and when I save it, when I click on it, I have the option to return to it. So if let's say I exit the view. Now I go back to my regular data. Because I've saved the view, I can go to filter views, and there's state views, and it brings it back. Okay. All right. That's a filter view. Now, if we hop over to the other account, this spreadsheet is shared with my colleague. I don't see, it's not showing it by state because that person needs to create their own or open their own open the view, the state views. So when I create the view, it's created for all the collaborators, but it doesn't change the view unless they select it. So filter views are adjusted by person that selects them. Filters changes the view for everyone. Hope that makes sense. Okay. All right, so let's go back to our spreadsheet. And let's say we want to change that view. So I click on create a group view, and I want to look by party. And I'm like, okay, these are all the Democrats. These are the Democrat Republicans back in the day. I guess maybe that was the independents, the Federalists and the Republicans and the Whigs. Okay, so you have that. I don't have to save the view. I can just X out of it. Don't save. And it brings me back to my data. So if you want to pause the video or take a little extra time to work with that, you can. But we're going to move on now to conditional formatting, the next tab. Okay. Tip number 4, conditional formatting. So let's say that I want to command my spreadsheet to format maybe colors, fonts based on the data that's in the cell. And this is a very popular technique to be able to visually represent your data in a spreadsheet. So we'll use the party column as an example. So click on conditional formatting in your spreadsheet. Before we do that, let's format it with alternating colors because that's listed first. So if you click on format and you choose alternating colors, it'll just make your spreadsheet look nice. So let's do that as step 1. Format alternating colors. And when you do that, it will select your data and then you can pick a color that you want to be your alternating colors. You can also modify that. So if you I picked the orange red, but maybe I want my header to be more of a lighter red or maybe a darker red. So I can add a custom color. I can change it to more red. Okay, let's say I pick more red. But then I realized that I can't really see the name that well. So then I might want to change my text to white, make it bold. Okay. So that's an option. Or I can just say, no, I'm just going to switch it to yellow and I'm going to go back to making my text black. So I'm going to leave it like that. And now we're going to do some very specific conditional formatting based on just Democrat and Republican. Those who are in the party designated as Democrats, we're going to have that cell formatted as blue with white text, white bold text. And if they're Republicans, we're going to have the cell formatted red with bold white text. Okay. How do we do that? All right. So we're going to select column D. We're going to select format and then conditional formatting. And our workspace area on the far right is going to change to the conditional format rules area, where we're going to establish a rule for column D so that the Democrats are going to be blue. I'm going to change, first go down. I'm going to leave the apply to range because I selected the whole column. If the cells, and I'm going to put text contains, or text is exactly, in this case, Democrat with a capital D. How do I know if I've got this correct? If I look at my column, it's highlighting the data I want highlighted, so I can give myself a thumbs up. Now I can go over to the bucket, the paint bucket, and change that cell to blue, but I can't read my data anymore, so I'm going to make my text bold white. And look how snazzy that is. That is like, wow, that's a real visual on just the plain Democrats, okay? Then I click on done. And now all is well with the world, except we wanted to create the second rule. So I'm going to add another rule. And again, I'm going to format the cells. So if the text is exactly capital R for Republican, I can see that I've done this correctly because it's selected the Republicans. And I'm going to change this fill to red, bold, white text, and click done. Pause the video if you haven't been able to complete these tasks. Explore it a little further if you'd like. Try it with other things. There's a lot of options in conditional formatting. It's not just limited to this, but this points you in the right direction if you're thinking, hey, I can do some snazzy things. You can make heat maps. You can say if it contains something. So just know that it's there, and we'll continue on. All right. So that's tip number 4. Tip number 5, splitting cells. Now, this is something that you're going to want to use quite a bit, I would think, if you work with spreadsheets often. Very often you get spreadsheets, and we'll click on the split and checkbox tab or sheet in our workbook. Very often you do get a spreadsheet that has the first and last name in the single column, and you're like, no, I need them separate so I can sort. Or you want to do a mail merge with just first name. There's just so many reasons why you want first and last name. So we have enough columns to the right. If you don't have enough columns to the right, you would have to create them, or it will overwrite data. So if you already had data in column B and C, you would have to right click and choose insert one column right to do this. But we don't have to because we have blank columns. But what we can do is we can select the column, and then we can choose data. And then at the bottom, it says split text to columns. And then this little box pops up that says, how do you want to do this? And when I click on separator, I have space between my names, my first and last name. So I'm going to select space. And now I have separate columns. It used to have to do a function for this, and now it's just boop, quick little thing. I'm sure Google is going to make it easier. In fact, there could be an easier way to do it already, and I just don't know about it. But now you can rename your columns. So this could be first. This could be first. This could be last. I want to draw your attention to one thing. Because this sheet is already been set up in the past, right? It wasn't set up with the latest updates. The top row, the header row, is not frozen. So if I sort column A, first is going to get sorted. And in order to lock that top row so it doesn't, I can just very easily select View, Freeze, one row. And now the top row is frozen, and when I go to sort, it won't pull the top row into the sort. Okay. Now I am going to include inserting checkbox here. We have it. I don't know if I use it on insert options. Let me pause for a moment and double check. No, we do it on the next. So we're just gonna call this split for now. And in the next tab, we'll look at our insert options. So insert options, quite a few, worth having a good time with. So let me hop back to my slides. In insert, you have the ability to add checkboxes, columns, drop downs, and smart chips. Okay, so insert column, insert checkbox, insert drop down, insert smart chips. What are they? Let me show you. So I'm going to insert with column A selected. I'm going to click on insert columns, one column to the left. Insert column, one column to the left. All right. There, I did that. Now let's make this column a little bit smaller. So I'll resize it by clicking between the A and the B and just sliding it over. In A1, I'm going to click on insert checkbox, and I've inserted a checkbox. I can check things off or not. Okay. What if I want checkbox all the way down? Am I going to insert, insert, insert? No. I can select the cell that has that data in it, and there's a little blue handle to the right, bottom right corner. You hold that handle, click and drag, and it will click and drag that down to the bottom. So you can use that to drag data down. Okay. Another cool tip I have for you with that handle is if you start numbering things, 1, 2, 3, and you highlight 1, 2, 3, and then you use that handle and you keep dragging, it continues the numbering for you. Just a little tip. That was free. That wasn't part of this. So now we're going to look at chips. So we're going to insert a smart chip, a person chip. So let's say that we're doing autobiographies of the presidents, and I'm going to assign different presidents to different people. So I'm going to insert a person. How do I do that? Just put the @ sign in and then start typing the person's name. So Archie Andrews is going to be assigned Zachary Taylor. So now Archie Andrews has been added there. And what's different, instead of just his name, is his little contact profile is in there now. So I can open a detailed view. I can send an email. I can send a quick chat. I can start a meet with that person, and I can invite them to a calendar event. So this really makes interacting with spreadsheets with all of the apps just incredibly useful. So that's how you add a person chip. You @ sign and start typing the person's name or email. Status. So if I wanted to insert a smart chip and I want the status on this is where I might want to insert a drop down. So if I click on insert and I choose drop down, I have the option to add a drop down. Okay. And in this drop down, I'm going to put option 1 is select one. Option 2 is started. And add another item. Option 3 is in review. And option 4 is published. Okay. You can even change the colors for each item in your dropdown. So if I want started to be yellow, in review to be blue, and published to be green, I can do that. You can modify the colors as well, and then click on done. So now this has select one, started, in review, published. If I want to drag this down before I modify it, I can click and drag it down. And now I have my drop down in every column. Pretty handy. All right, so now we're going to add another smart chip. So under approved, we're going to click on insert, and we're going to choose smart chips, and we're going to choose file. All right, so in approved, we can add a checkbox here, insert, checkbox, drag it down. So once it's approved, you can check it off. You know, it's published and, approved. Again, hypothetical. Feedback. Let's say that we want to put an emoji in here. Like, what's your feedback? Put an emoji in. All right, so I'm going to insert, and I'm going to go to emoji and put in an emoji. So that's just something you can put in emojis. You can also put in rating options. So if you say, I want to put in a rating option here so they can tell me how they rated the project, I click on insert. I choose smart chips. I choose rating. I bring this down before I punch everything. And then you can rate the biography, or the person can rate the project, but it gives you an opportunity to have people add a rating. So you have the rating smart chip as well. All right. So those are your various insert options. There's other smart chips. So if you click on you can add a file. So if you wanted to add a handout for like Forms and Sheets Essentials, that adds the file, and this brings you directly to the link, and you could copy the URL and things like that. So there's other smart chips as well. Why don't you play around with the smart chips, the emojis, the ratings, the drop downs, the checklists, and really get comfortable with that. Google also uses AI, new features. So if you open a spreadsheet where you have drop-down data already in the spreadsheet, but you don't have it set up as drop-downs. So let's say that you have done a form survey and people have answered novice, intermediate, or expert, and you have that all through your spreadsheet. Now, when you open it, Google's going to ask you, do you want us to make these into drop-downs? It's just a little neat feature. So if you see that, that's why. There's so many new things I can't even mention them. All right, so let's go on to the next option, which is wrapping text. Pretty simple thing to do, but surprisingly, when I show people this, even in this day and age, I always get folks that just didn't know that it was available. And it's really important that you know that it is. If you collect data in a spreadsheet that is long text, paragraph text, short answer responses, you're typing in a spreadsheet and you see that your text fills the cell, but you can't read it unless you click on it. And then I also will see people doing a variety of things to be able to view this data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight these two columns, okay? And then there's I'll close out of my little workspace area over here. The text wrapping, let me pop back over to the text wrapping icon looks like this. Okay, so you're going to want to look for that on your toolbar. And you click on the drop down and the wrap text is in the middle of that. Okay, and when you select it, it will wrap the text. That's step one. Now I look at it and I'm like, whoa, that's kind of tough. And then I just pull the columns over a little bit. I resize the columns just a bit. And you can kind of play around with it until it meets your needs, depending on how many columns you have with data. But all the data is now viewable because you're wrapping the text in the cell. It's not going to carry on. It's going to wrap it. And if you can see when I resize the column, as I make the column less wide, it's going to make the rows longer depending on how much text is in there. Okay. So that's how you wrap text. That's a game changer if you haven't been able to work with wrapping text. Okay. All right. Moving right along, we're going to look at tip number 8. And we have 8A and 8B to give you a little practice with some auto sums, just some basic formulas. But we're going to do auto totals, we're going to do sums, and then we're going to do auto averages. So we're going to head over to the tab for auto sum, and then we're going to do some auto sums, and then we're going to fill down. So I click on auto sum, and here I have a table set up with the monthly totals for money we're bringing in from various things: car wash, fundraiser, door-to-door fundraiser, and bike-a-thon. So I want to get the totals by month. So if I look at May, I want to see what the total was for everything in May. And then I also give you an opportunity to do grant totals for just the car wash, the fundraiser, and the bike-a-thon. Okay. So let's click in cell E2 and we'll get the total for May. Okay. A couple ways you can do that. If you start typing equals sum, it's going to automatically go. I can see where you're going with this. You want the sum of B2 to D2. I see this. And if you see that it's already there, you hit enter and it will automatically just put in that formula. Okay. Another way you can do it is to use the function on your toolbar, click on it, choose sum, and then drag over the data. So if AI isn't working the way you want, you can choose sum from the function toolbar, drag over the data you want to add up, and hit enter. And that will do the same thing. Now AI is built in here, so it sees that I've added up the May month, and now it's like, you probably want the rest, right? And I do. So I'm just going to hit enter because it's suggesting it. And now, oops, I did something wrong. Let's try that again. So I click on insert sum. I drag over these and hit enter. And my AI suggestion is gone. So if it comes back, I'll show you. If not, we'll just move on. Follow the directions when you see it, if you see it in the future. You might have it on your screen right now. But you can also just click on that little handle and drag it down and it will just fill everything down. So now I have the totals for May, June, July, August, and September, and October, but I don't have the grand total yet. Okay. I can do a sum of column E, But once I have the grand totals for the car wash, the fundraiser, and the bike-a-thon down here, it'll auto-populate the grand total there. Okay, so let's click over under car wash and we'll choose the sum option and we'll select these values and hit enter. And it's like, oh, there they are. Now my total has changed over here to 1230, but I need the others. So I'm going to use the handle and drag to the right. And now I know that the total for everything was $4,534. Okay. That's what the number you should have if you've followed everything correctly. Pause the video if you need time to practice this. If not, let's hop over to auto average. So tip number 8B is auto average. We're going to take data. You're going to use what you learned in the previous task, and you're just going to do average instead of sum. Okay. So if I go to auto average and I just click into the student average K2 for Julie, so that's going to be K2, I can click on equals and start typing average, right? And it will automatically predict, I know exactly what you want to do. And then I can hit enter. Okay. Now the other thing I can do is click on the function icon, choose average, and select the values that I want to average. Okay. And hit enter. And here is the suggested autofill. So in the previous task, I hit enter and it didn't work, right? But now I'm reading directions and it says, hit control enter to autofill, or I'm going to try checking the box. And lo and behold, it did. Okay. So I'm all set. I've got my averages. If you want to change the numbers so it's rounding them or it's 6.4, you can modify by clicking on format number and changing your number format. Oops, sorry. Insert format number and go to custom and change it to 1 number. All right. So you can choose how many decimal points you want. All right. Format number. And we're nearing the end. We are nearing the end. So we're going to look at number 9, insert chart. We're going to select the data and we're going to insert the chart and ignore where it says or use Explore tool. Google took that away. Google took it away. So click on create chart. And in this scenario, we're just going to say your district's tracking the number of bus incidents each month. Your administrator would like to create a chart of the monthly average. Please select the data and insert a chart and practice modifying. So if I select the data and I click on insert chart, either the icon or insert chart, Google will decide what chart it's going to insert. Okay. In this case, it chose a bar chart. All right. Now I have a lot of options here. It looks like the number of incidents per month, they've ranged it between 0 and 10. And it shows where we're getting the most incidents, okay, and where we're getting the least. Now, interestingly enough, right before the Christmas holiday, when you get treated with all these wonderful gifts, or Hanukkah, or whatever holiday you celebrate, the incidents go down. But then when school's going to get out in June, your kids are anxious and incidents goes up. So I'm using this chart where I could not visually see what action to take or how to think about this data. But then once I got the chart, I was like, I really can see this. Now, a couple things. One is I have this option here on the right to make changes by clicking on customize. I can change the chart style. So let's say I just wanted the line chart. Okay. But then I look at it and I think, oh my gosh, you know what else I need to do is I want to look at the axes and titles. So the chart title will be bus incidents. I can change the font, colors and things. I can look at the series. The line color is blue. Well, what if I want the line color to be a different color? I can choose that as well. I can make my line thicker. Okay, so you have a lot of modification options. You can add data points if you want on their chart. So I can add different data points. Okay. I can add data labels. So when I select data labels, it's going to show me like the specific number for that. All right. So I have like these options. Have you ever seen trend lines? You can see the trend line here. So if it was just going to go up, that was the trend line going up. So if Christmas wasn't a thing, this is how it would continue to go up throughout the year. Kids would get more anxious as the year ended on, or get a little more rambunctious, but we get a little break in the action in December. All right, so you have this variety of ways that you can modify the chart. So I don't need to walk through each step for you. I give you permission to explore. I also want to mention that if you want this chart to be embedded anywhere, you have the option to do that as well. Number one, can select the options here, and you can move it to its own sheet. So when you click move it to its own sheet, it actually puts it in its own sheet, which is really neat. Now I can take a screenshot of it. I can copy and paste it. I can download it. I can publish it to the web. I mean, I can do anything with this chart now. So my tip number 9, my last point with tip number 9. Oops. Sorry, I must. Not yet. Sorry. For tip number 9 is to use charts from sheets to create a report in Docs. So let's say that I'm doing a report for the school board, and I want to justify why we need like maybe some supervisors or supervisors or chaperones on the bus during certain months, especially June. And so I'm going to use this data to show what's going on, but I might have a variety of information that goes in this report or presentation. So if I open a doc or a slides in Google, I can then insert that chart into that document or that Google slide. So I'll demonstrate that right here in this document here. So if I click on insert, I can choose chart, and I can make one, but I can select from sheets, and Google will search the most recent sheets that I've worked with that have a chart in it. So this is the spreadsheet that I was working with, and I click on insert, and it's like, is this the one you want? And I'm like, damn straight it is. So I select it. If there's more than one chart in the spreadsheet, then that I'll have a choice of what I want to put in. And the other thing too is the data may or may not change, right? I have this report. What if the data changes? Do I have to go through this process again? No, because I have the opportunity to update this. First of all, it's linked to the chart, so I can open the source by just clicking on open source, and it will open up the spreadsheet. Okay. And if the data changes, let's take a look at this screen. And let's say that in December, the incidents are 1.9, and in May or in April, right before spring break, and in June, they're higher. So I'm going to change that data, watch what happens. So I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to change this in December to 1.5. I don't know why. How do you have a 0.5 incident? In June, it's an average. June, I'm going to put it at 12.5, 12. And in April, I'm going to put it at a 9. Okay. So now I go to chart 2 here, and it automatically changed what it looked like in my spreadsheet. But on my doc, one thing happens. It will prompt me to update it. So if any change is made to a linked object in your slides or your docs, you will see the option to update, and you click on update, and it will update that in your spreadsheet, or in your chart, in your doc or your slides. So that's pretty handy tool there. So that's a little tidbit for number 9. And my big number 10 is, I can't tell you enough how awesome it is to be able to merge from Google Sheets using Autocrat. And this is not part of this video or this training because it's a separate training, but in the event you're watching this video, and you have access to the sheets that are in the description, you're going to want to go to how to merge using Sheets, using Autocrat, and watch that video because it will walk you through step by step how to create certificates or applications or just anything. So that's my tip number 10 for your Google Sheets essentials. Now, in the spreadsheet that I shared with you, there's something called Yet Another Mail Merge. I no longer use it because you can mail merge directly from Gmail, from your Google Mail, so you don't need to use this. But the reason you would use it is it has a nice tracking tool. So if you want to merge emails and send updates, weekly updates to parents and have a way to track the data on how many parents opened it, how many parents replied, it will give you all that data back. You had this person reply, this person opened, consistently didn't open, bounced. So if you want to set up weekly emails to update your staff, to update your parents, I recommend using the Yet Another Mail Merge add-on. Okay, so that's it for today. That wraps up Google Sheets. Please replay the video anytime you want. Share all the materials with anyone you want. If you want me to deliver any training like this to your staff, just email me, Allison@edtrekkers.com or AllisonMollica@gmail.com, and I would be happy to accommodate your request. All right, thank you very much and have a great day.